the most dangerous animal. Human beings like to believe that danger belongs to instinct. We imagine violence as something primitive, something left behind as intelligence evolved. It comforts us to believe that thinking made us safer. But intelligence did not remove danger from humanity, it transformed it. Animals destroy because they must hunger. Territory, survival, their violence ends when the need ends. Humans are different. Humans can harm without necessity. We can imagine suffering before it happens and still continue toward it. We can plan it, justify it, and explain it in ways that allow us to sleep afterward. This is where the horror begins. Not in violence itself, but in awareness. The human mind does not simply act, it narrates. It creates stories that make actions feel reasonable. History shows that the people responsible for humanity's darkest moments rarely believed themselves evil. They believed they were correct, necessary, rational. They believed the outcome justified the cost. The frightening realization is that intelligence does not eliminate cruelty. It gives cruelty language, it gives it structure. It turns chaos into policy and harm into procedure. And when suffering becomes procedural, it no longer feels like horror to those creating it, it feels like order. The question is not whether humans are capable of destruction. That is obvious. The question is why awareness has never been enough to stop it. Because perhaps the most dangerous creature is not the one that kills without thinking, but the one that thinks and still finds reasons to kill.
Human empathy weakens with distance. One person suffering in front of us can change us. Thousands suffering far away become statistics. The mind protects itself this way. It cannot carry every pain it knows exists. But this protection has consequences. Modern humanity has mastered distance. Decisions are made far from their consequences. Harm travels through systems, through orders, through invisible chains of responsibility until no single person feels accountable. And this is how ordinary people participate in extraordinary damage without ever feeling cruel. Work becomes routine, numbers replace faces, efficiency replaces reflection. The outcome becomes abstract enough that conscience no longer interferes. The unsettling truth is that humanity rarely becomes more violent as it progresses. It becomes more detached. Harm moves further away from the person causing it. The emotional cost decreases while the scale increases. Distance does not remove suffering. It removes the feeling of causing it. And once that feeling disappears, almost anything becomes possible.
There is something deeply unsettling about how normal perpetrators often appear. They are not always angry or unstable. Many lived ordinary lives, capable of kindness in one context and cruelty in another. This contradiction disturbs us because it challenges a comforting illusion that evil looks different from us. But history suggests something else. Human beings adapt quickly. What feels unthinkable at first becomes tolerable through repetition. Small compromises accumulate. Each step feels temporary, justified, unavoidable. Until one day the boundary that once seemed impossible to cross no longer exists. The horror is not sudden transformation, it is gradual erosion. People rarely notice the moment they become capable of things they once condemned. Circumstance reshapes morality more easily than people admit. Authority reduces doubt. Fear encourages obedience. Belonging discourages resistance. And slowly, the extraordinary becomes ordinary. When groups replace conscience, alone, individuals hesitate. In groups, hesitation fades. Responsibility spreads across many people until it feels weightless. No one feels entirely responsible, and so everyone continues. Groups create identity, identity creates division. Once someone becomes an outsider, empathy becomes conditional. History repeatedly shows that collective thinking can override individual morality. People who would never harm another person alone may support harm when it feels approved by the majority. The group provides safety. It removes doubt. It replaces personal judgment with shared certainty. And certainty is dangerous, because cruelty shared among many people no longer feels like cruelty. It feels like unity. The frightening part is not how rare this is. It is how often it has happened.
The fascination with darkness. Humans are drawn to stories of tragedy and violence. We listen, watch, and analyze, searching for understanding. We tell ourselves it is curiosity, education, awareness. And often it is. But beneath curiosity lies something more uncomfortable. Recognition. We want to understand how someone crosses the line because we want reassurance that we would not. Yet many motivations behind human horror are not alien emotions. They are familiar ones taken to extremes. Jealousy, fear, humiliation, desperation, the desire for control. This realization unsettles us because it removes distance. It suggests the line between observer and participant is thinner than we prefer to believe. The horror is not simply what happened. It is the awareness that human behavior changes under pressure faster than morality does. And somewhere inside that realization lies quiet fear.
Intelligence without wisdom. Human progress accelerated faster than human restraint. Technology expanded power before ethics adapted to its scale. Humanity learned how to affect millions while still struggling with ancient impulses. The same intelligence that cures disease creates weapons. The same innovation that connects people enables destruction from a distance. Distance weakens emotional consequence. Harm becomes easier when it is invisible. The unsettling truth is that humanity's greatest strengths and greatest dangers come from the same source. Ingenuity amplifies intention, whether that intention is compassionate or destructive. Progress did not solve human nature, it magnified it.
The normalization of suffering. Human beings can adapt to almost anything. What once shocked society slowly becomes background noise when repeated long enough. Suffering becomes familiar. Familiarity reduces urgency. Urgency fades into acceptance. This does not require cruelty, only exhaustion. When problems feel too large, people withdraw emotionally. Survival becomes personal rather than collective. Attention shifts to what can be controlled. And slowly humanity learns to live alongside suffering it once promised never to tolerate. The horror lies not in active malice, but in passive adjustment.
Memory and forgetting. After every catastrophe, humanity promises remembrance. Lessons are recorded, names are preserved, words like never again are spoken with sincerity. But time alters memory, emotional weight fades. Stories become history instead of warnings. New generations inherit knowledge without fear, and without fear, urgency disappears. Patterns return not because humanity wants to repeat them, but because remembering is uncomfortable. Societies move toward comfort, and comfort weakens vigilance. The past becomes distant enough to feel unreal, and what feels unreal no longer prevents repetition.
Ayaks, the mirror. The deepest horror appears when humanity recognizes itself in its worst moments. It is easy to condemn cruelty when it feels foreign, much harder when it feels familiar. History suggests continuity rather than exception. The same fears, loyalties, and instincts appear again and again across cultures and eras. The capacity for harm is not rare. It is human. This realization removes moral distance. It replaces judgment with discomfort. Because if ordinary people were capable of extraordinary harm before, then the possibility has never disappeared. The mirror becomes difficult to look into for too long, not because it shows monsters, but because it shows similarity. Part X. Awareness without resolution. Humanity exists in contradiction. The same species capable of profound compassion is capable of immense destruction. Both truths exist simultaneously. There is no final resolution because awareness has never guaranteed change. Humanity studies its own darkness, analyzes it, documents it, and yet similar patterns return. The final horror is not that humans are uniquely evil. It is that understanding alone has never been enough to stop repetition. And so the story ends without comfort, only with a question that remains unanswered. If humanity understands its own capacity for harm so clearly, why does understanding so rarely change? What comes next?